Well, I know we've said thank you 1,000 times this morning, but it's really important for us. I think it's coming across our hearts over and over again, just because for John and I, this has been a heart dream of ours for 11 years now. So you're our 11-year-old baby. Ever since we met, it was funny, even when I was single, there were stirrings going on that I really couldn't put into place until I met John Hogan. And then the puzzle pieces really just snapped into place and it became a vision. And we figured out that God had put us together for a reason. And it wasn't just for romance, but he had other things in mind as well. And so we may get a little verklempt every now and again today as we encounter you guys from up here, because this is a dream come true for us. The idea of compelling came to me. I'm a little bit of a word nerd. Anybody else in the room? Word nerd? I love doing word studies. I got hooked on it doing Bible word studies. And what did God mean when he said that? And digging in and figuring things out. But there is a way of using compelling that is unusual, because it's usually a verb, correct? You're compelled. Is that a verb? Am I using that right? And you actually can use it as a noun without an object. There is this compelling that's in us. And to me, that has a weight to it. To me, it's connected to passion and vision and kind of that burden you carry around. And for us, this is kind of the inaugural event. And so the word was very apropos for us, because we had felt this compelling in us that we really couldn't describe when we were single, got married, the vision came into focus, and then all kinds of false starts and righteous distractions, like adopting a little 18-month-old girl and letting parenthood get in our sea legs. Anybody know what that feels like? Especially since it was unexpected. I think I had a little more of a transition curve. No nesting for me. She just showed up. So life kind of happens, right? And yet every time we would get quiet or go on coffee dates together, just the two of us, our dreams would always take us to this. And I find it interesting in the video, several people mentioned right off the bat when they are asked, are you creative? They go back to their childhood. I find that fascinating. Instead of saying, yes, I am, they go, well, when I was a kid, and I have a really interesting story, because you heard a little bit about my corporate journey and the numbing out, and I got paid to do some creative stuff, but I was single and they knew that, and so working 14-hour days and my own personal creativity was sacrificed for my job. But then I had a situation where I needed to go help take care of my dad, and I walked into his little tiny place, crammed full of a bed and just 2 pieces of furniture. And when I saw the other piece of furniture, I got chills all over. It was a coffee table that we had had in our home that I grew up in. And I said, Dad, turn that over. And we went over and unloaded it and turned it over. And it was, I'm going to cry. It was full of drawings that I had done laying on my back underneath the coffee table when no one was watching. And it reminded me, even from the time I was tiny, that I had that compelling in me. Because I'm pretty sure that the family coffee table was not a pre-approved canvas for my creativity. And I don't know if I ever got in trouble for it. I can't remember getting in trouble for it, but I must have been really great at being stealth. But that the pull, the draw was there. The only other thing I experienced as a real wake-up call was after marrying John. We got about a year into our marriage, and he created a safe place for me to kind of resurrect some stuff. And God was all about that. And his mom bought me paints for Christmas, and by March I had painted 36 paintings because they were in there. And a pastor friend found out about this kind of renaissance that I was going through, and he asked me to paint in church, and I'm like, that's just really bizarre. What do you mean paint in church? Because I came from a very, very conservative background where music wasn't even allowed, so painting was very odd in my mind. But he set up a tablet in the back of the room and brought me some chalks and said, nobody will even know you're here, just do it. And so I got strapped on my big girl boots one Sunday and went to the back of the room, and no lie, as soon as I stood up to the piece of paper, the whole room disappeared. And it was like God had been waiting there for me all along. Very profound moment, because I took what I loved to do and I married it with the one I love. I'd never experienced that before. I was an art major, and I was productive in art in corporate, but I had never married the two and brought them together. And the whole world cracked open at that point. I got really ruined. And so I wanted to become a smart artist. Anybody out there feeling that push and shove to be a smart artist, a good businessman in your art? Because we're all so great at that, aren't we? So I got into this thing. I love doing research and all that stuff, right? So I find these artists, and I would go on their websites, and I would get totally slimed by the fact that my art doesn't look like their art, because comparison is death. And I would read all these fabulous blogs about how to be a successful artist and a prolific artist. And I got consumed, and every day I would be telling John, there's one more thing. Oh, I got this new thing this is gonna really break it open kind of thing. And he said, babe, you had something totally different yesterday. Like, what's going on? And he watched as the pressure in me went up and up and up, and my creativity went down and down and down. And I stopped going in the studio. I stopped painting. I didn't even go in the room. And I was on my computer, and I was going to be a successful artist kind of thing. So he challenged me to break away from that and to be quiet and sit with the Lord and let God talk to me about my creativity. And what ended up happening was 100 days of 100 paintings. And then people wanted to know what the paintings meant, so I wrote a backstory. And so I was writing 100 writings and painting 100 paintings in 100 days. But what happened was I did the runners thing, where you're great for the first few miles and then you hit the wall. And I would wake up with all these ideas, and then I was empty. And I started having to lean in and listen. And then it became a dialogue between me and the Lord. And sometimes it just started out as color. And sometimes it was a word. And then in no time there was a painting. But that taught me that the compelling really is there. And for me, it really is a noun without an object. It's that stirring thing that never goes away, no matter what happens in life. So our encouragement today in the topic that we're asking our presenters to present is on that compelling. We want them to share their stories in their own creative venues, how that compelling has surfaced for them. So.